Okay, so today we are making my paleo battered fish tacos. This is an oldie on the blog and one of my personal favorites, and I know so many of you love it as well. However, it's one of those recipes that some people tend to have errors with it because the batter can be a little tricky. So we're gonna go over this recipe today so none of you make mistakes in the kitchen and you have the perfect paleo battered fish tacos. This is a recipe that's really kind of my rendition of a beer battered fish taco, but we're gonna be using gluten-free flours, grain-free flours, and making it paleo compliant. So let's get started by making the batter, which our base of the batter is with cassava flour. And I know my measurements are a little weird, but we're gonna start off with half a cup of cassava plus, trust me, I've tried this a million ways, 1 tablespoon of cassava. And then we are gonna use a combination of tapioca. I find that cassava flour is a lot like regular flour, are the most similar to me as far as grain-free flours go. It just needs a little extra touch to help things crisp up. So we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of tapioca. You could also use arrowroot right here. It works either way. Okay, so to flavor up our flours and give it a little oomph, we are gonna add, of course, salt. What would life be without salt? 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt. We're gonna add a little bit of smoked paprika. This just gives it a little bit of like smoky flair that I really like. 1/2 teaspoon of that. You can use regular paprika as well, but the smoky flavor just really takes it up a notch. And then lastly, we're gonna add some onion powder, about 1 teaspoon of that. With the flours all in here combined, we're gonna whisk it so that there's no lumps in there. And then for our kind of beer substitute, here we are gonna use Topo Chico. Now you can use any sparkling water that's unflavored, because that would be weird, in this recipe, but I really like Topo Chico because I find it's the bubbliest. And I'm sure you know that if you've drank it before. So the other tricky thing about Topo Chico is you want it chilled. This is gonna change your batter. The batter and the flours are gonna respond differently to a room temperature Topo Chico versus a cold one. So that could be a place that you might run into an issue. But it's okay if you are using a room temperature one, you just might need to add in a little bit more flour to thicken up the batter. The cold one is gonna kind of like make it all seize a little bit more and come together better. So we've got a cup of Topo Chico in there. We're gonna whisk this all up until it's smooth and well combined. And now it's exactly where I want it. If I was making pancakes, this is more or less the consistency. So I'm gonna set this aside, let those flavors kind of meld. Next up, we are gonna make the slaw while that's sitting out, so that way when this fish taco recipe comes off the skillet, we're ready to assemble our tacos and there's no time for the fish to get soggy. So first thing that we're gonna do to make the slaw, this is a really simple slaw, nothing fancy with it, because really all your work should be into the fish tacos. So we're just gonna do 3 tablespoons of mayo. I'm using this avocado mayo from Chosen Foods. You can also use homemade mayo, which is on my blog. There's a recipe there, which is really easy, and I like that it's a little bit more mild in flavor. So we've got 3 tablespoons of that. And then you're gonna pick your favorite hot sauce and add that. This is gonna give it all its flavor without any work. And then a little bit of garlic, minced. And then last but not least, some lime to give it a little zing. Once you've got all those ingredients in there, I'm gonna do a little bit of salt, some pepper, whisk that until it's combined. And then to really keep things easy again with this slaw recipe, I'm gonna use a bag of the shredded cabbage that I just bought at the store. You could buy, if you don't find shredded cabbage, you can find the coleslaw mix and just don't use the little seasoning mixture in there. And then, or you could also just shred your own cabbage. 3 cups or a little 8-ounce bag. So that's going in. We're gonna give this a toss and just set it aside while we fry up our fish. That's not the right lid. Now let's get our fish going. So any white flaky fish will do with this recipe. I love halibut in this recipe. I just find that halibut is a little bit more neutral in flavor. But you could also use cod or any other white flaky fish. Those are probably my two favorites as far as this recipe goes. But I really like to use halibut when I can find it. Oh, another very important thing. When you go to your butcher or your fishmonger, I guess would be the right word, ask them to remove the skin for you. You could do it at home by yourself, but good luck. I tend to just kind of annihilate my fish whenever I do that. I don't feel like I have the perfect knife skills for that job, and they can do it effortlessly. So you're gonna cut the fish into little like 2-inch strips about yay big and add that to the batter. And you know what? I'm actually gonna turn my skillet on so that it can start getting nice and hot. Like about medium to medium high heat, somewhere between there. And get that warmed up while we slice our fish. The other very important aspect of this recipe is to ensure that you have a really good non-stick skillet. You're definitely not gonna wanna use a stainless steel. You're definitely not gonna wanna use a stainless steel skillet. Well, I cannot say that. So just move on from there. So I'm heating up some avocado oil. I'm gonna make sure that my fish is nice and coated all over. And I really want you to see this batter. It is really thickened up. I'm gonna grab a spoon so you can see the texture and consistency of it. It's got that thickness, like we said, like a pancake batter to it. And that's what you're gonna wanna see. And again, if it's too thin, tablespoon at a time, cassava flour. That's right. And if it's too thick, add a tablespoon or two of Topo Chico. But you got this, I believe in you. So with each fish, you wanna make sure it's coated in the batter, but you wanna make sure it doesn't have too much excess. Oh, I suck at this. So you're gonna wanna make sure it's coated in the batter and then just kind of shake off any excess. And then you are going to place it in onto the skillet, the hot oil, and fry it for about 2 minutes aside. Okay, so after about 2 minutes, you're gonna carefully flip over. You can see that crust. Oh my gosh, it's perfect. And again, if you were cooking this in a regular skillet that's not nonstick, it would not turn over easily and you would be very upset with yourself. Just trust me. Okay, so we're gonna start pulling these guys. I think they're done. Oh yeah, nice and golden. Make sure when you put them over here too, they're not touching, because again, you don't want soggy fish tacos. You want crispy. These are stunning, literally. Okay, so while the second batch is crisping up, I'm gonna start warming my tortillas. Now, I know some of you might not want to do that many things at once, and that's totally okay. You could wait. They'll stay crisp for a little bit. But just set a timer. It'll all be good. So I always like to warm my tortillas, especially when I use Siete foods, so that way they don't just kind of crumble whenever you go to eat them. So if you have a if you have an electric stove, you can do this in a skillet, but because I have a gas stove and because this is what I do, I just heat them directly on the fire. Okay, so let's flip these. You could have a tortilla person. Clayton usually is my tortilla warmer to help with this little dance that we're doing right now. I'll flip my fish. They're nice and golden. All right, so to assemble our tacos, we've got our warm Siete tortillas, or whatever tortillas your little heart desires. First, we've got our slaw, which going right in the bottom. We've got our beautiful fish. So crispy, so perfect. Let's do a bit of cilantro, a little pico. Always serve with some lime wedges. Beautiful. And one last little bit of hot sauce. Okay, check out these beauties. Okay, you can find this perfect paleo battered fish taco recipe on my blog. I will link it here, and enjoy. They're perfect. I'm just gonna need a 2-bite show because they're that good. You'll have to make these immediately. They're so good. Perfect for summertime. Great for entertaining. And no more batter problems.